My wife's affair with my best friend led to a secret $1 million inheritance, and now he's threatening to take everything, fighting over the $500, $0 estate in our house while I just found out she was cheating during our wedding week. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here I am. Just a few weeks ago, my life was pretty straightforward. I had a wife I loved, a decent job, and a future I thought we were building together. But then, out of nowhere, everything flipped upside down. The craziest part. The moment I found out about her affair, I stumbled on something that changed everything even more. A secret inheritance worth over $1 million, which I had no idea about. And now, my so-called best friend is threatening to take it all, including my house. All of this happened during what I thought was supposed to be the happiest week of my life, our wedding week. Yeah, that's right. Just days before we tied the knot, I uncovered that my wife had been lying to me the entire time. To back up a little, has always been a bit of a bitch in her own way. She's charming on the surface, but beneath that she's manipulative and good at hiding her true colors. We met about 5 years ago, and I thought she was the one. She was attractive, confident, and seemed genuinely interested in building a life with me. Over time, I noticed small things that didn't sit right, little lies here and there, excuses for why she couldn't meet me, secretive phone calls that she'd quickly hide when I walked into the room. At first, I brushed it off, thinking maybe I was just paranoid or that I was overthinking. But the gut feeling persisted. Things started to escalate a few months ago. She became more distant, more irritable, and her phone was glued to her hand. I'd catch her texting late at night, and when I'd ask her about it, she'd brush me off, say I was overreacting, or accuse me of being paranoid. Tell me I was controlling, that I didn't trust her. That's when I started noticing her lie more often, and her stories didn't add up anymore. But I never imagined she was cheating on me with my best friend, Jake. The first real sign came about 2 weeks ago. I was cleaning up her purse after she went out with some friends, and I found a receipt from a hotel in the city, paid for with her card. The hotel was about an hour's drive away, and she claimed she was just meeting a friend for coffee. But the receipt was for a room for 2 people. That was strange, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Then last weekend, she was acting even more secretive. Her phone kept buzzing, and she'd quickly swipe it away whenever I looked at her. She started wearing more revealing clothes, and I caught her sneaking out one night, telling me she needed to meet her sister. But I knew better. The real bombshell hit when I decided to follow her one night. I didn't plan to catch her with someone, I just wanted to see where she was going. She told me she was going to a spa appointment, but I followed her to a fancy downtown hotel. I waited in my car, heart pounding, until I saw her walk into a room with Jake. Yeah, Jake, my best friend. I saw them go in together, and I swear my stomach dropped. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I watched from a distance as they kissed and started to get intimate. That moment crushed me. Not just because she was cheating, but because it was with Jake, my closest friend. The guy I'd trusted more than anyone. I didn't confront her right away. I needed to think, to process what I saw. But the worst part was that I found something else in her purse the next day, a letter from an estate lawyer. It mentioned $1 million inheritance from her late grandfather, which she'd been hiding from me. I couldn't believe it. She'd been lying about her finances, about her family, and now I was wondering what else she'd kept from me. The inheritance was a secret, and I had no idea she was sitting on that kind of money. That's when the anger really started to take hold. Now I'm stuck in this mess, betrayed by my wife, betrayed by my best friend, and left with a house I thought was ours, a marriage I thought was solid, and a fortune that could change everything. I'm furious that she lied to me for so long, that she cheated during what should have been the happiest week of my life, and that she's still trying to deny everything. The worst part, she's still pretending to be innocent, acting like I'm overreacting, calling me paranoid. But I've seen enough to know the truth. And now I'm trying to figure out what the hell I do next. After I saw her walk into that hotel with Jake, everything changed. I stayed in my car, heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. I watched them through the window, kissing and touching like they didn't have a care in the world. I couldn't believe it, my best friend, my wife's lover. I felt a cold wave of shock, then pure rage. How could she do this? How could Jake betray me like that? We'd been friends for over 10 years. I trusted him with everything. And now I found out he'd been sleeping with my wife behind my back all this time. I didn't want to just storm in there and cause a scene. No, I needed to think. I needed a plan. So I sat there in my car, watching them for what felt like an hour, trying to get a grip on what I'd just seen. When they finally came out, I followed them at a distance, my mind racing. I saw them get into her car and drive away. I had no idea where they were headed, but I knew I couldn't just forget what I saw. I had to confront her. I had to know what the hell was going on. The next morning, I waited until she was at work. I wanted her to think I was still clueless. I went through her phone, her emails, her social media. I found texts from Jake, explicit messages, flirtatious comments. She'd been lying about everything. She told me she was just friends with Jake, that they were working on a project together, that there was nothing going on. Yeah, right. I saw the proof. The messages, the hotel receipt, the late-night calls. All of it, my stomach turned. When she came home that evening, I was already waiting for her in the living room. I told her I knew everything. Her face went pale and she started to lie, say it was all a mistake, that she didn't mean for it to happen, that she was just stressed, that Jake was just a friend. But I wasn't buying it. I told her I saw her with him, that I knew about the affair. She tried to deny it, but I cut her off. I told her I had proof and I wanted the truth. That's when she got aggressive, started yelling, calling me paranoid, accusing me of spying on her, saying I didn't trust her. Her reaction didn't surprise me. She's always been good at lying, twisting things around. But this time I was done. I told her she could keep lying, but I wasn't going to pretend I didn't see what I saw. I told her I needed some space, that I was hurt and angry, and that I'd think about what to do next. I left the house that night feeling numb. I couldn't sleep. My mind kept going back to everything I'd seen, every lie she'd told me, every moment of betrayal. I kept asking myself, how long has this been going on? How deep does this go? And the worst part, I kept thinking about Jake, my best friend, who I thought I could trust with my life. The next day, I started digging into her finances. That's when I found the inheritance. I came across the estate lawyer's letter, and I couldn't believe my eyes. Her grandfather had left her a trust fund, over $1 million, that she'd been keeping secret from me. I couldn't understand why. Why hide it? Why keep me in the dark? I started to realize that her lies weren't just about her affair. They were about everything. She'd been manipulating me from the start, hiding her wealth, her secrets, her infidelity. It all made me feel sick and betrayed on a level I never thought possible. Now I was faced with a huge dilemma. Do I confront her about the inheritance? Do I use it as leverage? Or do I just walk away, leave everything behind? The house, the marriage, the money, everything. It all suddenly seemed so fragile, so easy to lose. I felt like I was in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. The betrayal cut so deep, I didn't even know where to start. I was furious at her, furious at Jake, furious at myself for not seeing it sooner. And yet, beneath all that anger, there was a strange sense of clarity. I knew I couldn't trust her anymore. Whatever happened next, my life was never going to be the same. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept spinning, thinking about everything I'd uncovered. The affair, the inheritance, Jake's betrayal. I felt like I was living in some twisted nightmare. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I let myself believe she was who she said she was. Always had a way of spinning stories, lying her way out of anything. She was good at it. That's what made her so dangerous. I knew I had to act, but I wasn't sure what the right move was. The next morning, I decided I needed to talk to her again. I wanted answers, the full truth, no more lies. When she got home from work, I confronted her in the kitchen. I told her I knew about the affair, about the inheritance, about everything. Her face twisted like I just told her she was going to hell. She started crying, claiming she loved me, that it was just a mistake, that she was sorry. She said she'd been overwhelmed, that she didn't mean for it to happen. I looked at her and felt nothing but disgust. I asked her why she lied about her money, why she thought she could hide her affair from me. She tried to deny everything at first, but I pulled out the receipts, the messages, the letter. I told her I knew she'd been lying from the start. She insisted she was innocent, that she and Jake only ever had a fling, a moment of weakness. Yeah, right. That's what she wanted me to believe. I wasn't buying it. I told her I was done, that I didn't know if I could trust her anymore. She begged me to forgive her, said she was sorry she hurt me, that she'd do anything to fix it. But I knew I couldn't just forgive and forget. That night, I went to bed feeling empty, betrayed, and furious. I couldn't shake the feeling that my entire life with her was a lie. I kept replaying everything in my head: her lies, her cheating, Jake's betrayal, the inheritance I never knew about. I started to realize that I was going to have to make some tough decisions. I couldn't keep living in this illusion. I decided I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I needed to be strategic. If she thought I was just going to roll over and accept her lies, she was dead wrong. I had to get ahead of her, figure out how to protect myself, and maybe, just maybe, turn the tables. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that the inheritance could be my leverage. If I played my cards right, I could use it to my advantage. But I also knew she'd fight to keep it, especially since she'd been hiding it from me all along. That's when I started planning my next move. I needed to find out exactly how much she knew about the inheritance, what she planned to do with it, and how I could use it to my advantage. I also had to consider how to handle Jake, my so-called best friend. Betrayal cuts deep, but money makes people do crazy things. I was starting to see that this wasn't just about infidelity. It was about power, lies, and revenge. And I was ready to fight for what was mine, no matter what it took. Over the next few days, I kept my distance from. I didn't want her to think I was panicking or that I was going to confront her again without a plan. Meanwhile, I started digging into her finances more thoroughly. I contacted the estate lawyer, got copies of the trust documents, and looked into how the inheritance was set up. Turns out, her grandfather left her the money in a trust that she could access only when she turned 35 or if she married, which she did just before our wedding. The timing was suspicious, but I wasn't surprised. She always knew how to manipulate her way into what she wanted. I also reached out to a lawyer myself, not to threaten her outright, but just to understand my options. I needed to know if I had any legal grounds to contest the inheritance, or if I could claim some part of it, especially given the circumstances of her lying and cheating. The lawyer told me that since the money was in a trust, it wouldn't be straightforward, but I might have grounds if I could prove she'd been hiding assets, or if I could show that her actions were part of a pattern of deception that affected our marriage and finances. Meanwhile, Jake kept texting me, trying to explain himself. He claimed he was sorry, that he didn't mean for it to happen, that he was drunk or high when it started. Yeah, right. Like that makes it okay. I told him I wasn't interested in hearing his excuses. I told him that I knew he'd betrayed me for months, that I'd seen the texts, the hotel, everything. That's when he started threatening me, saying that he'd take everything I had if I ever tried to go after the inheritance or even accuse him of anything. That's when I realized that this was about more than just a fling. It was about money, power, and revenge. I knew I had to prepare for a fight. Wasn't going to give up her inheritance easily, especially since she'd been planning to keep it all for herself. I also suspected she'd try to manipulate the situation to make me look like the bad guy, maybe even try to turn her family against me. I needed to be careful. I started gathering evidence, screenshots of her texts, copies of bank statements, anything that could prove she'd been lying or hiding assets. One night she came home early from work. I could tell she was nervous, maybe worried I was onto her. She started throwing around accusations, saying I was paranoid, that I was spying on her, that I didn't trust her. I just looked at her and said, "You lied about everything, about the affair, about the money, about us. How much more are you hiding?" She tried to deny it, but I saw right through her. I told her I wasn't going to be played anymore, that I knew the truth. That's when she snapped. She called me crazy, said I was ruining everything, that I was making up stories. But I was done pretending. I told her she could keep lying, but I was going to find out the full truth, no matter what. I told her I was going to see a lawyer and I was going to protect myself and whatever I could from her schemes. The look in her eyes was cold, like she knew she'd lost control. She stormed out of the room, but I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I was hurt, angry, and confused, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I realized that I'd been blind for too long. I'd trusted her for years, but she'd been playing me from the start. The inheritance, her lies, her affair, it all pointed to one thing. She'd been manipulating me, using me, and now she was trying to control the situation even more. I had to be smarter, more strategic. I couldn't just confront her and hope for the best. I had to plan my next move carefully, because this was about more than just betrayal. It was about saving what was left of my life before everything was taken from me. In the days that followed, I threw myself into gathering as much information as possible. I knew was planning her defense, probably trying to spin things around and make me look like the bad guy. I couldn't let that happen. I reached out to a trusted friend who's good with finances and legal stuff. We went through her bank accounts, her emails, her social media. I needed to understand exactly how much she'd been hiding and how she was planning to spin this whole mess. What I found was shocking. She made several secret transfers from her personal accounts to offshore accounts, probably to hide her assets even more. I also discovered that she'd been making arrangements to claim the inheritance early, even though she was supposed to wait until her 35th birthday or until she was married. She'd been planning to use her new marriage to her advantage, and I realized that she'd been scheming to keep every penny for herself. That made me furious. She'd lied to me from the start, not just about her affair, but about her entire financial life. Meanwhile, Jake kept pushing his luck, texting me nonstop, trying to apologize or justify himself. I told him I didn't want to hear it. I told him that he'd crossed a line, that he'd betrayed me worse than anyone ever had. His threats about taking everything I owned only confirmed that he was just as greedy and manipulative as. I knew I had to be prepared for him to try to get in the middle of everything, maybe even try to turn against me. That's when I decided I needed legal protection. I contacted a lawyer again, this time to discuss options to protect my rights. I explained the situation, the affair, the inheritance, the offshore accounts, the threats. My lawyer told me I could file for a legal separation and possibly even an annulment if I could prove her deception was severe enough. She also advised me to get a court order to freeze any assets that might be transferred or hidden further. It was a long shot, but I had to start somewhere. I couldn't just sit back and let her take everything. That night, I confronted one last time. She was trying to act like everything was fine, that I was overreacting, that I was just jealous and paranoid. I told her I knew the truth about her affair, her lies, her plans to manipulate the inheritance. I told her I was done playing her game. I also warned her that I was going to protect myself and my interests, and that she'd regret messing with me. Her face twisted into a sneer and she said she'd see me in court. That was fine. I was ready for that fight. I realized I couldn't change what she'd done, but I could control how I responded. I decided that I'd fight for my rights, for my house, and for whatever part of the inheritance I could legally claim. I also knew that I had to cut her out of my life completely. Trust was gone and I couldn't keep living in this betrayal. I was angry, hurt, and betrayed, but I also felt a strange sense of liberation. I was finally taking control. Whatever the outcome, I knew I'd never let her manipulate me again. Now, I'm just waiting for the legal process to unfold. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I do know one thing. I'm done being the victim. I'm done trusting someone who's proven they're capable of lying, cheating, and hiding behind of innocence. I've learned that money and secrets can turn people into monsters, and that sometimes you have to fight to get your life back. I don't know if I'll win everything back or if I'll have to start over from scratch, but I do know that I'm not going down without a fight. Now, after everything, I find myself sitting here, reflecting on what's happened and what I've learned. It's been a brutal ride, discovering my wife's affair with Jake, the betrayal of my best friend, and the shocking inheritance that I never saw coming. It's like my whole foundation was built on lies, and now I'm left trying to pick up the pieces. The thing is, I'm not the same person I was a month ago. I've become more cautious, more guarded, and honestly, a lot more suspicious of the people around me. Trust is a fragile thing, and I realize now how easily it can be shattered. Looking back, I see how blind I was to manipulations. She was always good at hiding her true intentions, lying through her teeth to keep me off balance. She played the victim so well, crying and pleading while secretly scheming behind my back. And Jake, my supposed best friend, turned out to be just another player in her game. The money, the inheritance, the secrets, they all revealed a side of her I never wanted to see. Her greed, her willingness to lie, cheat, and betray just to get what she wanted. That realization hit hard. It's a hard lesson on how people can hide their true selves behind a pretty face or a convincing smile. As I move forward, I've decided I won't let her or Jake control my life anymore. I've hired a good lawyer and I'm fighting to protect what's rightfully mine. My house, my savings, whatever I can claim from that inheritance. The legal battles are tough, and I know they'll take time, but I refuse to be a pawn in her game. I've also cut all contact with both of them. No more lies, no more manipulation. I've learned that sometimes the only way to heal is to cut out the toxic people who have hurt you so deeply. This whole experience has changed my perspective. I realize now that honesty and trust are the foundation of any relationship, and without them, everything crumbles. I also learned that revenge isn't about hurting others. It's about protecting yourself and making sure you don't get taken advantage of. Again, I'm not proud of how I had to fight, but I know it was necessary. I've become more aware of people's true intentions, more cautious about who I let into my life. In the end, I'm grateful I found the strength to stand up for myself. I may have lost some illusions, but I gained clarity. I learned that sometimes the best revenge is simply moving on and reclaiming what's yours. I hope my story serves as a warning. Trust carefully and don't ignore the red flags. Because when betrayal comes, it hits hard and leaves scars. But those scars can also be a reminder to stay vigilant, to value yourself, and to never let anyone manipulate or betray you again. I'm still healing, but I'm moving forward, stronger than ever.